Hello, dear friends. Let's paint some orcs today, why don't we? It's still Orktober. Well, not really, but let's still paint some orcs. So, folks, it's been a while since I last released a video, and I'm sad to say this might be the new norm for me, at least for a little bit. I'm just quite busy, but I'm trying to get some videos out there when inspiration strikes. This video was meant to be released in Orktober, which would have been very fitting, but now it's November, but I'm still living in Orktober because schedule conflicts. But I'm gonna paint the orc commandos from the Kill Team set. I've always wanted to paint a little bit more of orcs. I've never really gotten into them. They seem like a really fun faction, but however, I want to paint them all a little bit more like individuals, and painting a whole army like that is gonna be taxing. So a kill team is perfectly fine for that, though. These are, of course, like I said, only a handful of orcs, so I'm gonna give them all their separate tones and stuff like that. We're gonna work on a little bit of orc skin tones, because the grass might be greener on the other side, but so is the damned orc. Let's start by working on the skin tones, and I'm using a lot of green colors and just mixing them up and seeing how it goes. Now for the green bits of these guys. I want a lot of varying skin tones. Like us, they have varying tones, even though they're mushroom folks, but still I want to have them looking a little bit more individual. But they all need to start somewhere, so I prime them all in an olive green color, as that gives me a natural starting tone. Granted, some might deviate quite a bit from that. Next, a bony white zenithal to make a start at the depth of their skin. Except for the squig. That is going a different route. I want him yellow, so pink is the starting base tone of him, and then a white, harsh and somewhat covering zenithal. Now we start working on the different tone to the guys. Primary tones will be utilizing the entire range, more or less, of green-tinted contrast paints. Then the olive and bone-tinted zenithal can still shine through a bit, but we get a lot of variant base tones. And even mixing contrast paints together for a slightly different hue as well. And finally yellow on the squig, covering all the pink and white and getting some nice orangey tones going in there. Since I have the yellow in the airbrush, some of the orcs get a slight top-down highlight of that as well. Just more flavors in the green bucket. And finally, a bunch of varying green starting tones are on my commandos. Now we start shading. I'm using Agrax shade, Athonian camo shade, and Bealtan green, both mixing them together and by themselves, and just giving the guys even more variance to their tones. Now let's just roll a little bit of a montage of that. And after all the base tones and shades are done, I roll back again into a montage mode, and now I'm mixing and matching and using a lot of green tones to add even more interest and depth to all the skin tones with a lot of varying green colors. Highlights here and there, using them where they fit. Darker, more bluish tones on the orc with a skin complexion more like that, and more yellow-centric on others. And sometimes going a bit against the grain, and also mixing the paints even further. Now I'm quite happy with how they look at this point. I got a lot of interesting green colors. Some I like a little bit more than others, but they're all really nice, and they give all the orcs their own separate individuality or character or what have you. Fielding them on the quilting board might feel more fun when you're getting to know the guys even a little bit more, because they all stand out a little bit more. Now for a little bit of extra, just throwing that out there. I have been conversing with Creaturecaster over the past few months due to the video in the corner here somewhere where on Midgard, where I was painting a model from them, and I've joined them as an affiliate. So there's a link down in the description for their store. It's a US based store, but you can order from anywhere. If you pay an X amount, you get free shipping and everything like that. And if you click the link below and use my code M&M 2023 flashy, then you can get 5% off. This will not cost you, of course, anything extra, but I'll get a slight kickback, and that's always very much appreciated. Let's go back into the orcs and see what we have going there. Now that we've painted all the green, we have to start painting the actual clothing and items on them. Now, the idea I wanted to go for is to have all the colors rather muted and dull, just to have them a bit more grounded. Because the stark green can be quite flashy and everything like that, but I wanted to have the clothes a bit more, well, realistic, if you want to call it that. But I'm still gonna have a flash of red as well, as a striking accent here and there on the guys. Also, I'll be using the wet palette, so I can go back and forth between colors if I feel like something needs a new tone, or if I feel like I missed the spot, or something to that effect. And painting so many varying models, that is definitely bound to happen, and then the wet palette is quite a nifty thing to have. Sandry or beige color I will use liberally for various clothes of orcs, but all the grips of the weapons that are cloth-based or strips will get a coat of this. I used a bit of a darker tone than bone color, so the teeth and skulls and the like later on will have a slightly different hue to them. The fang I chose to use where there might be some denim-related fabrics, and also just a small accent here and there. I feel that the familiar look of denim gives these guys a bit of a realism and relatability. The toughness of them, and with the later on dirty denim, reminds me of some hard laborers, which I find somehow fitting feeling. Now it's time to finish coloring in their clothes. All the bits of fabric of their outfits will get a Sons of Horus green. It is green, yes, but unlike all the green we used on their skin tones, but it is a slightly more muted and bluish tone, so it will not feel as similar. Only exception on finishing the clothes in this color is the big knob and the little sneaky boy. Those two will get something a bit different, but still in the muted tone. Storm vermin fur on the knob's coat and the little one's pants. And then bits here and there on most of them, some on backpacks, some on just random parts, and all the rocks on the bases. When shaded later on, this might not read as black, but it will read as a rather dusty, worn color that perhaps back in the day was black, but now has faded into something more grayish. And finally, the last color for their general outfits, and that's a rather nice brown flat earth from Vallejo, and this will go on basically all that is left, mainly leather pieces, a few backpacks or parts of backpacks, and the bootsies of these little angry green men. Now a few details on them will need some nice bone color. Those would be teeth, claws, nails, and some skulls that I added to the base, and while I have this lovely pale tone out, I decided to paint the fuse on their dynamite sticks in this tone as well. After all these bits of muted and drab colors, let's put some metallic paint on these guys. Everything that is made from metal, and that is quite a fair portion of their gear, will get a decent coat of Ironbreaker, or whatever mid-tony metallic color that you want. In the end, I wanted to read a bit dark, so a good mid-tone is what I felt was the best starting point. For a bit of pop to them, because they definitely need it, I'm using a striking red as my accent color. Just a bit here and there where it is fitting, be it markings, decorations, part of weapons, their eyes or eye lenses, just a few spots on each to give a little bit of oomph. And finally, when all these rather muted and drab colors, except for the striking red, are on the models, I'm going to give them all a hefty wash in Agrax. It's as simple as that. The reason why I'm using this method is because I'm focusing on the skin tone and just letting that flow a little bit more. The clothes are an afterthought in my experiment here, but they need to feel a little bit more realistic because the skin tone is a little bit bizarre, to say the least. So everything will get a wash of Agrax except the skin tone, and this will mute everything down, and that's why we were using such light tone colors, because they will get darker. We'll still have a little bit of highlights. There's no edge highlighting going on or anything like that. Nothing too fancy, but it feels kind of nice, kind of realistic. I feel perfectly fine playing with these guys. I'm not putting them into a competition, but I'm going to have fun playing with my son a little bit of a game of Kill Team. Now, like I said, this video is maybe a few weeks late. It's not fitting for... It's not Orktober anymore, but I like orcs. I've decided to try my hand at a little bit of orkiness, and I like these guys. So I'm happy. I hope you are as well. If not, well, I'm sorry, but these are the guys I'm going to be playing with, so it matters that I'm happy with them. And that's really all that matters, being happy with what you're playing with. Isn't that the case? Now let's take a look at these guys in a little bit, but first, of course, I'd like to mention the affiliate store with CreatureCaster down below, and also I have my Patreon, and there's stuff to click there as per usual, you know, everything like that. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me here today. I hope to see you again sooner rather than later. Let the colors flow, but until next time, farewell.